So I know I'm a few days late to this, but I wanted to talk about the fact that there's people being banned off Twitch, particularly Destiny, who's a big streamer, one of the bigger left-wing streamers that you see on Twitch. Someone who really started sort of the idea, as far as I know, of video games while talking about politics and things like that. Now, for anyone who knows, I've debated Destiny several times. I've been on panels with him. Most of the time we disagree with each other. He's someone I like debating, even though I think that a lot of his political stances and ideology aren't really for me. In fact, some of them I think are just outright terrible. I think that he's someone who said some hyperbolic things, which I've taken him to task for, such as all people on social media and things like that, alternative media, should be banned to end sort of this conspiracy theory stuff. I think a lot of that's hyperbolic, but nonetheless, I know people out there listening will go, I hate him because he said X. I try to judge people only by what I've heard them say, so no doubt he said some terrible stuff, but let me be honest. Anyone who's streaming as long each week as he is, I don't stream even probably 1/10 of what he's streaming. And I know because I'm talking a lot, have probably said some things that are stupid that would rouse a lot of ire in a lot of people. So whatever. All I could say is this: my interactions with Destiny have been incredibly positive, even when we've massively disagreed with each other, including him helping me with tech issues behind the scenes, helping me rip because I forgot to record my videos with him, at least an early one, helping me rip from his channel so that I was able to put that up on my channel. And even though we've massively yelled back and forth at times at each other, I really enjoy my debates with him because it's not about agreeing. He's someone who's not an insane, extreme person that's going to claim that you're personally attacking them, ruining their life, trying to get you banned and things like that, just because you're having disagreements, at least in my experience. But I have nothing to gain from speaking up about sort of Destiny being banned. No one in his community is really going to like me. They're left-wingers. I'm a right-winger. I think that I'm one of the most forceful right-wingers on Twitch and on YouTube that goes into these debate circuits. And so I'm not thinking, oh, well, I have something to gain by sticking up for Destiny. That's not what I'm saying. I just wanted to speak about his getting banned and what I see around the community that led to him getting banned, at least in my estimation. Now, the first thing to say is this: Twitch, when they ban you, as with YouTube and other places, they don't really tell you exactly what you said. And so I don't know exactly what Twitch told Destiny, so I don't know exactly why he was banned. My guess is, though, that he doesn't know exactly why he was banned because they don't say, like, at minute 33 in this video, you said X, and that's against our terms of service. So I've heard all sorts of allegations. All I'll say is this: it seems at least as if some radical trans people and radical left-wing people in the Twitch sphere are celebrating his banning and trying to take some sort of credit, like they're the ones who mass reported and things like that. Same sort of crowd that's always celebrating when they ratio someone on Twitter, like that's somehow some huge accomplishment. So there's an awful lot of people that you see, particularly on the left. I haven't seen hardly anyone on the right that are celebrating this ban. And I think that it's worth speaking out. First off, I think most of the people on the Twitch sphere that are in the leftist political sphere probably owe Destiny in one of two ways. Either one, they're just not as talented copies of Destiny, and so they're basically getting takes from people like Destiny or some other big streamers, repeating them in a way that's less sophisticated and less intelligent or entertaining. And that's how they get their audience, with sort of residual followers that ended up watching. So that's fine. I don't mind. We all sound like someone. So I'm not saying that shouldn't be allowed or anything like that, but I'm saying you ought to have probably a little gratitude for the person that you're sort of emulating. The other is, there's a lot of people that get a lot of viewers because they interacted with someone like Destiny, or maybe someone like Hassan or someone like Vosh. These are all bigger left-wing streamers. And there's a lot of people, I think even Destiny more than those other people, he's willing to go on to channels, it seems to me. He's done it with me. I'm someone who has on average 50, 60 people watching me on Twitch. He's been willing to interact with me. So I think there's a lot of people like that rather Destiny did a panel or interacted with individuals that's how they got a lot of eyeballs on them for the first time, or that many eyeballs for the first time. So you would think that more people would sort of have some sort of gratitude, but it doesn't seem that's the case. It seems like with most things, what you see is people looking at this as some sort of opportunity, which is fine too. I don't care if you're out there and this is your living, go for it. You're thinking, oh boy, now's my chance to get more people on Twitch because Destiny's off here, so some of his fans will come over to me. Fine, whatever. I know that's not me, and this isn't my job. I do this as a hobby, as entertainment, so I don't really give a shit about all that anyways. But I found it funny when you see sort of the camps. You had sort of the people that are like, well, good, Destiny's transphobic and things like that, which we'll get to in a second. And then you had the camp saying, well, no, he shouldn't be banned because he's done so much for the left-wing community and he's done so much for the trans community. I think there's a third option, which I haven't heard people saying that much, particularly people on the left. So as someone on the right, let me say what the third option is. I don't give a fuck what Destiny's done for the trans community, nor do I give a fuck what he's done for the left-wing community. He shouldn't be banned because it's ridiculous. And people that get banned like this, it's bad for the platform. It's bad for free speech, and I think it's terrible. I'm not afraid to debate ideas, so I don't want people banned, with small exceptions. If people are literally calling people out and calling for physical violence against them or something like that, fine. But what did Destiny do that raised the ire? He talked about trans athletes in sports. He talked about the toxicity of so many trans people on the online community on Twitch, for example. He's right about both of those things. And that's what drove the ire of so many of these people to mass report, to cheer for Destiny being censored. And I find it ridiculous that, of course, you're going to have those people, but then so many other people on the left that are like, well, you know, the fact that he spoke up, or he was an influence to me, or he helped the left-wing community, or he spoke positively to the trans community. All of that is bullshit. That's fine if you want to argue those points, but the reality is he shouldn't be banned for this stuff, because if you start banning for people for things you don't like this, it's going to get worse and worse. Now, from the right-wing perspective, people like me have been getting community strikes on places like YouTube for nothing. I've never called for violence. I haven't called for bigotry or anything like that. And there's been far more people on the right, including the former president, that have been banned from so many of these platforms. So we're like, yeah, we told you so. We told you this stuff would happen. And I know that it's easy to say, well, let the left eat their own. And I get that. And I don't begrudge anyone for saying that. But the reality is, whether it be a flaw of mine or not, I've been saying for years that when cancel culture predictably starts to come for people on the left and it starts to eat their own, I would still be there saying, no, I don't want those people canceled either. So here I am, as promised, I'm making that claim. A couple more things. I just think it's important to let people know that it's not just the radical trans community on Twitch that is cheering for this censorship. There are also sort of these white knights that want to treat trans people like they're special babies, that you can't insult them or anything like that. And, oh, they need protected. You have to worry about their feelings nonstop. Those sorts of people are also in agreement with this, with these attempts at censorship. I think this is laughable. One of the things you see with a lot of the Twitter exchanges that go with people in this radical trans community and the people that are defending them on Twitter or on Twitch and things like that is they don't want you to ever punch back. They want to be able to insult you, possibly dox you, try to get you kicked off platforms, etc., call you the vilest names, etc., etc. And when you push back in any way, they're like, oh my God, you can't do that. They're perpetual victims. I think that one of the least bigoted things we could do is try to treat everyone as equal as possible. For me, if you get into an online spat with me, whether it be on a video like on Twitch in a debate panel or something, or on Twitter, I'm going to treat you basically with reciprocity. Now, I screw up sometimes, but the idea is if you treat me like an ass, I'm going to treat you like an ass. I don't care that, oh, but that person's 80 or that person's 17 or that person's LGBTQA plus, whatever, or that person's Christian or that person's Muslim or who cares? Once you enter that arena, when you're on the online world and you're attacking people, you should be expected to be attacked back. And I don't have hard feelings. I get people calling me fat, people calling me bald, all of which is true, by the way. I don't care. I don't have hard feelings. I'll just treat you. I'll make fun of your appearance then. And I know people might say that's childish on my point. Whatever it is, I understand. But I'm just saying, I'm not going to treat someone as inferior to me, requiring of special protections because they have something that's different about them. I don't do that. I don't care if it's an illness you have. I don't care if it's your skin color. I don't care if it's your age. I don't care if it's your intelligence level, whatever. If you start insulting me, then fine. Expect to be insulted back. Same is true with people like Destiny and others. People are calling out on Twitter things Destiny has said on his Twitter feed towards the trans community. And this is, oh my God, he used the word subhuman. Whatever. That's how he and me and many other people talk to anyone who's coming at us. They want to ruin this guy's livelihood and get him kicked off of all online spaces where he makes his income, because as far as I know, this is his job. And what's he supposed to be like? Oh, I value your opinion. Thank you very much. No, he says F you and he insults them. That's great. Why do they assume that trans people are weaker and can't handle criticism? I find that to be bigoted. Furthermore, I don't know I'm not trans, nor do I know many trans people. But let me say this. The trans community in general in the United States is a very, very small portion of the overarching community. In fact, it's less than 1%. I would estimate that the trans community on social media that you see sort of these censorious trans people that are like the worst of the worst, I would estimate that they are a very small fraction of that already small trans community. In other words, I don't think that the average trans person's anything like what we see with these people on the Twitch community that are these radical trans, cry bullies that want to censor anyone and deplatform anyone that disagrees with them. Furthermore, there are many trans people that I've interacted with on Twitch and other social media platforms that aren't like that either. They're not trying to they might vehemently disagree with me on things, but they're not trying to get me kicked off. They're not being bullies about things. They're not, crying when they insult you and you insult them back. So I don't think for a moment that I want people to think all trans people are like this or all trans content creators are like this. That's not what I'm saying. But let's not be afraid to tell the truth, which so many people are. It is a radical trans community that you see in these online spaces that are doing some of this most heinous shit, including doxing people, censoring people, and things like that. Not all of them, but it is certainly a lot of that do that are from that community. And there are a lot of people supporting that community that don't identify as trans that are also cheering for that same sort of stuff. And we need to stop being afraid of these people in order to say, well, we have to tiptoe around and can't say what we think's the truth and things like that, because this very small portion of people will bully everyone and bully these companies into removing people so that they can sit around and celebrate. It's ridiculous. These people deserve to be called out. Furthermore, again, not being in the trans community or knowing anyone in the trans community, I want to say this. My job is, in this streaming, for me, it's just entertainment. That's why I do it. I have a full-time job. I've done it for over 10 years. I've been in the field of working with people with developmental disabilities. So whether that be autism, other forms of intellectual disability, some people that are nonverbal, etc. One of the things that I find unbelievable is one of the most common things you see is most people, even with severe autism that are nonverbal, other severe disabilities, the thing they want most, and everyone's different, but what I'm seeing over and over again is to not be treated as if they're just that disease. In other words, an autistic person that I work with probably doesn't want you to view them as an autistic person. They want you to view them as a person who happens to have autism. That doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge that there is an illness and that there are challenges that come with it. But as best as possible, you try to treat people as human beings. You don't treat them like they're an illness who also happens to be a person. I don't understand, and let me put it this way. My guess is that there's probably an awful lot of people in the trans community that feel the same way. They have many challenges that they have to overcome because whether it be that their body doesn't match up with their mind because there's something wrong with the mind or there's something wrong with the body. Either way, these would be significant challenges to overcome, and the literature bears that out. Regardless of what you think of trans people, we shouldn't treat people like shit just because there's something wrong. We shouldn't do that, regardless of what that illness is, regardless of what that thing that's abnormal is. And I don't give a shit how many people want to say, oh, well, you can't call trans an illness. It is either a physical illness because there's something physically wrong with the body that the mind is not matching up with the body, or it's a mental illness. You might not use the word illness. You might use the word abnormality. All I'm saying is that there's something on. That doesn't mean that you identify that person solely on whatever that abnormality or that illness is. But to pretend that there's not something wrong there is a disservice to everyone involved. The people that deal with this are human beings just like me and you, and they deserve to be treated like human beings. We could disagree on what that means politically, on what that means in school, on what that means with athletics, etc. But anyone treating people like garbage just because of something like that they're trans, to me, I have no time or space for. But what I will say is this. My guess is just because I understand humans, and I understand that there are all sorts of challenges that all people face, most people don't want to be identified solely based on the challenges they face. My guess is that many trans people, if not most of them, probably don't want you to sit there and have pity on them because they're trans. They just want to be treated like everyone else in society to the best of the ability. Yes, that might mean that there are things that are slightly different that we have to work around, but that in general would be the idea. So the fact that there are so many people, these radical trans activists that you see online, that are weaponizing their perceived victimhood and the perceived challenges they face in order to take down people, I find absolutely disgusting and a disservice to trans people who just want to be treated like normal human beings that are going through some challenges like almost everyone else. So the idea that somehow I'm transphobic or that other people are transphobic for calling out these shithead crybullies is absolutely ridiculous. No one speaks for an entire community, and to the extent that these people share some community spaces with me, such as we're streamers, we're Americans, I don't want them speaking for me, just like I imagine many trans people don't say, hey, we're all monolithic, we all agree in the same thing, so I'm glad that these people are out here trying to get people canceled that have disagreements. So fuck that crowd and screw all the left-wingers that are like, oh, well, I think Destiny went too far and he should be censored. And even the ones that are saying, well, he shouldn't be censored because he spoke up for the left wing and he spoke up for trans. No, screw all that. Stop tiptoeing around these crybullies that are bad faith, that are some of the worst people you ever meet, that are just using their perceived victimhood as a weapon to go after people, and understand that it's okay to stand up to them. It's a damn shame that some of these platforms like Twitch, YouTube, and to a lesser extent other places don't allow you to speak your mind and say just how wrong this crap is so that we can have adult conversations on the problems that surround some of these communities, like what we should do politically in other venues. Instead, we all have to sit around in stunned silence and pretend that we don't see the reality of things because we're afraid we'll get canceled if we speak up. So even though it doesn't benefit me in any way whatsoever, I say that it's ridiculous that Destiny was banned. Another left-wing person I know, Sonsol, was banned for other reasons the other day. It's ridiculous. If people aren't directly calling for violence and things like that, I don't think that they should be being banned like this. I think it's ridiculous that so many more people on the right have been banned in these spaces. Even myself a small creator, has gone through little problems like that, getting community strikes and stuff on YouTube. Never once have I called for violence. Never once have I called for any sort of bigotry. Never once have I called for doxing or anything like that. And yet still, I'm constantly on the chopping block and having to go to alternative media platforms because of this stuff. Eventually, the pendulum will swing back the other way. And these crybullies will be called out for what they are. Unserious people who were just bullies that saw a grift where they would be able to engage in the bullying behavior that they otherwise would have been something different if they'd have been born 20 years ago or something. So call these people out for where they were. Leave Destiny back on the platform if he wants. And to those of you that are following me on Twitch, look, follow me on Odyssey and DLive and other places like that because I see the writing on the wall. Eventually, I'll be booted off Twitch. Hey, if you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I do live streams almost every 8 p.m. Eastern time on weekdays. So check that out on Twitch, DLive, Odyssey, YouTube, and other platforms, which will be listed below. Thanks so much, and as always, have a good one.